next item was the calendar for 2024.
So this one, I'm going to add to it a little bit, the conversation on it, because this has become a topic within the commission, without the commission, at county council, and with administration. We have seen some fairly large agendas recently, here, I think, over the past couple of weeks. And there's now a backlog. I don't want to say a backlog. You're in line for, what, not a year at this point. County council has said that they're not concerned about that, that if there's a year wait, there's a year wait. If the residential development community has to wait a year for them to have a hearing, so be it. Now, there's a side issue to that, like Mr. Wheatley and I have talked about too, is that we also have small business owners, for example, that are caught up in that. But we also have a limited bandwidth on how much the commission can take, how much staff can handle. Although Mr. Whitehouse here and you all don't like to admit that you're overworked and and have a limit on what you can do. You're human. I mean, we actually looked at the number of hours and the number of pages that you all are dealing with. The commission, not even you all, probably 5 times that behind the scenes that we don't see. And it's pretty astounding to be able to keep up with that. And so, unless there's some directive from council, my understanding is we're going to kind of just keep on keeping on what we're doing, with the understanding that, frankly, I know we added the Freeman ones, but we need to get them back to like 5 a night, And we'll probably have some internal conversations about how we're going to handle solar farms, for example, because that's jammed up the load. And even some, like this church one, that got added on, but that's probably okay because it was 5 minutes and not a lot of stuff to it.
I wonder for things like solar farms that maybe they applied before the ordinance change, the new ordinance, right?
Yeah.
If they agreed to the new ordinance, could we move them forward faster, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. Yeah, but the problem is, the issue is if we move, and Bob and I talked about this, we move somebody forward, we're moving somebody back, and at the same time, that doesn't change the number of hearings in the queue. You know what I mean? So
there's really no way to deal with with it without adding meetings. I mean, you really can't do you can't make the agendas any
Doesn't that overstress staff?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. So but if you do that, you've just added another week's worth of work or 2 weeks worth of work in the same month to the staff. So,
right.
And to you all,
So
more meetings for us.
We all know this only takes about 3 hours a week on average, right? I'm joking. That was a quote from a councilman who will not be mentioned.
when they're courting you. Yeah.
Yes. Referring to the courting period.
It takes a lot of time to go through the thousands of pages that we have in front of us every week.
Another thing.
Yeah, and we don't always get it on Friday.
Well,
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, then part of the problem is too that one of the applicants tonight, they included the wrong information from a different thing that they were doing, which was in our, so then you got to, what is this? And then poor staff has to research it all, and which, by the way, you guys did a great job accommodating me this week, so thank you. But it's a lot. It is a lot, and I agree completely that if they're in line for a year, then it is what it is, because we've got a lot of developments and everything else coming down. The only problem I have is with the guy that's got a home business he wants to run, or something like that, or another like a borrow pit that's going to accommodate the need for the Atlantic Concrete Company that needs the dirt to make the concrete, whatever, something like that. That's with jobs and things like that. But if it's another, it should stay in the queue where it is.
And we do have a screening process to identify those applications. You've seen some recently that have been moved up because of their employment creation or that they're shovel ready. So we do work
like
with
the BB hospital one.
Yeah, right. That's a good example.
Community meeting,
Yeah,
right?
and you're very accommodating, Jamie. I know you are with trying to help everyone, but
Jamie, you and your staff are awesome.
they are.
Yeah, you guys, and it's interesting. Here's an interesting statistic for you. We only have 2 more employees in the planning and zoning department than we had in 2007.
Wow.
In 16 years, the department has expanded by 2 people. That's it. We
That's
had
crazy.
10 back then. We've got 12 now. We're processing, we're doing more stuff in less time now, really. I mean, it's just, it's astounding.
That
when you
is
look at the-
astounding.
And I would say, and Mr. Wheeler can attest to this, the stuff that we're seeing because of the expectations of the public, because our ordinances have changed, and because of the engineering, it's way more complex than it was 16 years ago. So that's a
Absolutely.
testament to you guys.
Absolutely. And infinitely more complex than it was in 1994.
Yeah, right.
And we have a lot more people that show up to the meetings than
Right,
probably what you
right.
saw back then,
And
which
what I-
is
and I try-
making it longer as well, because we don't have a little button that says you got
And
3 minutes.
The folks who speak from the public are better organized, better
Yes.
prepared. They have
Yep.
more well-thought-out presentations.
PowerPoints.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all part of it. Still doesn't solve the problem for the little guy. And, you know, I don't know if it, and clearly I'm the only person that thinks this is a solution, but maybe if we tried to group some of these things together, so we had a special meeting where all we did were solar applications.
I love that idea.
And tell the solar people, we're doing solar on October whatever date.
I'm going to stick up for staff for a second on that, though, because we think, okay, we're outward facing or doing all solar. That's still the same amount of work for these guys. You know what I mean? And so if you add
Yeah.
7, 8,
So
or
if it's
9,
10 solar panels we're
you're
doing,
killing
yeah.
them, you know, in addition to the other stuff they have to do. The one thing that, because I try to be an advocate for them, like behind the scenes too, is, you know, we don't think about, actually other business was only 5 items tonight, you know, but if these folks, when they review site plans, you know, you guys are doing red line copies that are back and forth multiple times on each site plan. There is so many hours that go into reviewing a check plan and plans to make sure it's right and making sure all the agency comments show up on the site plan, reviewing the agency comments and everything else. I'd almost venture to say it's one of the shortest things we consider, but probably one of the longest things you all do, or at least equal to some of the public.
And
By
usually-
the time it gets to us, all the work's done.
Yeah, and lately, the other businesses spend a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that. I think most folks here do, but I don't know that everybody grasps that. You know, like we think, well, our agenda, we've got 7 public hearings. Well, that's the tip of the iceberg for, you know, what staff's got to deal with. So
Occasionally, a couple of errors show up somewhere here and there, and I can only imagine how many hundreds of them you keep from being seen here every week.
I can add, Mr. Chairman, in terms of solar, so we ran some initial numbers earlier this week to see where we're at in those over 3 dozen that we have in the system. Based on, and thank you to the Commission for bearing with us, because we focused on this between September and end of November. At the end of that window, we will be approximately 80% through all the solar that have been received. So by focusing on them during the fall, it has actually helped, and that helps with our overall backlog. So
Is there anything we can do to help you?
I think if the Commission's okay bearing with us for just, I think there's one more meeting actually of solar, and then it's back to residential after that. So I think we have one more meeting coming up with 4 more solars
We're
on
not
it.
even building them
Well, that's
for
the
these
end.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next meeting does have
Yeah.
quite a few solar.
Really?
And then I think we're kind of back to, we have 2 more meetings.
But once we're through that will see the majority of the solar processed. So and then
and maybe it's such a thing. I hate to say it, but at that point we just put a hold on
Yeah.
solar. You know?
Because they're not even building them.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, from what I'm hearing you say, and if this is the way it is, it's the way it is, and it's the way it is. We really can't deal with more than 2 meetings a month, staff-wise. We really just can't. We can't do that. Okay, well, if that's where we are, that's where we are. And if it takes a year, that's how long it takes. So if anybody calls you, you know, that's the answer. And, you know, and it's the way it is. Sorry,
I've had those calls to me.
Oh,
And I've said, if you don't have your stuff in there, you can wait a year,
well,
because they don't have it submitted yet.
Well, it's really difficult to tell that small business person that calls.
No,
you,
I'm talking
you
different
know.
than that.
Yeah.
But, you just tell them, turn your stuff in, and we'll do the best we can, but we're doing
That's
the best we can.
who we need to
You
try to
and
accommodate.
Right now, the best we can is, whatever amount of time it is.
What's the percentage increase in the number that you're processing? Like the numbers of applications, from back when there were 2 less people?
Well, I think it reached the zenith in 2005 where we had 100 subdivision applications in 1 year.
Yeah.
100 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, which is crazy. I don't think it's been quite that bad since. But if you add all the other, that was just subdivisions.
Yeah.
That was just subdivisions. That wasn't all the other stuff. So
And nobody was
there's
building
no-
solar farms then.
We're right. No, I mean it's not a productivity issue by any stretch of the imagination. Staff's doing a great job.
I would say it's an engagement issue. Everybody, whether it's the applicants, the public, staff, there's a way higher level of engagement now than there was back then. too.
It's almost like you almost
And
hate to tell
sophistication.
people to call the office anymore because you know how busy. I mean,
You got to change it.
But actually,
I know.
this does raise a question, though. Is there something that we could do that would make that information available without people calling the office?
Do a recording at the
Well-
after.
The information's there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Online.
it's there.
Or if
They
you had a
just-
recording,
they just
if you had a
don't look
recording
for
that
it.
says if you want to know the results from any motions made last night, press 1 and then have it.
No, what happens is somebody calls, they ask you a question that is technical in nature, and you say, call Lauren DeVore,
I do that too, sorry.
instead of trying to answer it myself, frankly, because I don't do it every day. I mean, people have this idea that somehow we commissioners have this whole ordinance in our heads all
Yeah,
the
I
time.
know. It's,
I called Jamie.
somebody asked me that on Tuesday walking out of council what the setback is and something. I'm like, I
Seriously,
don't know.
you're asking me that? Yeah, right.
I gotta look it up.
I know.
What we could do, Mr. Chairman, if the Commission were willing, is this is just an idea, that just to throw it out. Once a quarter, we could schedule an extra meeting just to do other business, and the Commission has done this
We've
before.
talked about that before. If that helps
Would that
you,
help?
if that helps you,
Let's do it.
if that helps you, then let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do
Yeah, if we
that.
can do that, yeah.
Let's do that.
Because we've done that
because
before.
As needed, right?
Everything,
Or is that once a month?
Once a quarter.
Once a quarter.
Once a quarter? Good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's great. Let's do
yeah,
it.
you have a special meeting once a quarter, clear out your other business stuff or old business or whatever it is you want to clear out and be done with it. If that works, if that helps for you, go, well then by all means, no question, let's do it. Put it on the schedule. Put it in the calendar. Put it in the calendar for next year. Tell it, we got 2 more months left this year. What,
Yeah,
you want
if
to
you
do
need
it?
to
You
do
want
it
to do
this
it in
year.
November and December?
Yeah,
But
do one.
be better for November, probably.
Yeah, December's probably
a
terrible.
little tight.
Yeah.
We're already celebrating your birthday with you here
Yeah, well.
next year.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll celebrate after. There you go.
There you go.
That sounds good.
We'll celebrate after.
The one I will add too that I think we need to consider, I don't know if it's you or staff or whatever, a policy. If somebody withdraws something that's not an issue that's related to advertising or whatever, if they withdraw it because they don't like which way the wind's blowing or they don't have their TIS done or their stuff in, the end of the line.
I agree.
Yeah, because the problem is on that is you've lost a slot that somebody
Yeah.
else could have slotted
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
So, anyhow.
Especially if it's a controversial one
that's
and then we
fine.
have a lighter
And-
load.
Yeah.
And we could have had
Yeah.
2 more applications.
Well, there is this about this extra meeting, even though we're not going to be doing public hearings. Everything we do to clear something out makes room for something else. So we can at least express it to people that way. It's not like we aren't doing anything. We are going to do something, but we have to do something that actually helps our staff get more done. Adding an extra meeting of public hearings doesn't do that. That creates more work. So.
And actually, I think that's easily justified with the public. They want everybody to do a good job and make sure that.
Well, honestly, the people who are concerned are the applicants, are the
Yeah, I was
ones
gonna
who
say,
are
that's not
concerned
who's gonna- yeah.
about the timing. The
And it
public.
doesn't send a great message, too, that if it's, like, we're just trying to get stuff approved, if we're just adding meetings for big
Right.
residential projects or
Right.
whatever, that's just.
But that, I
necessarily
think
look.
that scheduling that extra meeting will,
It's a good
that will
idea.
help, then let's do it. Yeah. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? If not, we stand adjourned. Peace and harmony prevail.